All right.
Wonderful. I call this meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Mr. Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
I will. Give me 1 second. Apologies, I should have had that up. Oh my gosh. Give me a second here. I just don't want to I don't want to miss anybody, and I'm doing this slow scroll because of my formatting issues on the agenda. All right, here we go. Commissioner Trindade Duramo, Vice Chair Harris, absent. Commissioner Barrio,
Here.
Commissioner Sycamore, absent. Commissioner Lemon Strauss.
Here.
Commissioner Kenzik said he was going to be absent. Commissioner Holden
Here.
and Commissioner Hanrahan.
Present.
All right, so with 5 of 9, and Commissioner Fay is here. So we actually have six. We have 6 of 9, right? Only Sycamore, Kenzik, and Harris missing. So 6 of 9.
Correct.
We have a quorum.
The supermajority. We can do anything. In fact, what we're going to do is bust through this agenda quickly because there's quite a bit here, and I don't want to exceed the hour. I really like to hold tight to that. So let's dive into announcements. In case you have forgotten, we are meeting in person next week on Thursday, May 1st at the HFA building in the Lee Auditorium with brand new Wi-Fi router just installed for us. So we'll give that a try. I believe Director Base will be there with some support staff, I think. We are starting setup at 5:30 instead of the usual 6, so you can drop by anytime in that space and lug some heavy objects for Director Base, which is always an honor and a privilege. I was wondering if we wanted to be so bold as to meet in person again in June. I don't know what got into me, but I thought, well, let's just let the group decide. So, coming into this term, I did pledge that we would meet once per quarter in person. We have satisfied that. I don't know how excited people are to do it like a lot more regularly. If people are traveling or whatever, let's not even attempt it. So just shout out the first thing that comes to your mind when I say that.
Fine.
Say any word at all.
Will it be food or drink?
Let me tell you, sir, actually, I have asked the team to provide food at the May 1st meeting. It was going to be a surprise, but you just blew the lid off that one in a public meeting.
Wait, I thought we
Unfortunately,
weren't allowed. How did that happen?
we're allowed to spend up to $100 on food, and it must be equally available to commissioners and members of the public. So you're each going to get a tasty cake, and you're going to be happy about it.
A
Thank you.
hundred dollars?
Presumably including sales tax. So it's going to be meager, but we're going to do the best we can. It's going to be fun.
Do we know who makes those rules? I would pass a resolution about that.
The Council of the District of Columbia.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, anybody excited to meet again in June? Anybody
It's on
can't
the
make
5th. Is that right?
it? Yes.
Should that's fine with me, I think.
I
Okay.
all things being equal and with love for you all and Tasty Cakes, I'm slightly less inclined to do in person, just a little less flexible, but happy to, if that's where everyone else is, then that's good. Although we may need to pass that resolution to really entice me.
We're going to call the Tasty Cakes resolution. I only had this in mind because I definitely don't want to meet in person. Well, I guess we can in July, but there are holidays and things. So we will explore and see how feasible it is. Also, August, I don't know, am I thinking too European? I just feel like July is 4th of July week and August is like a vacation month. And so I figured we could just sneak it in June.
I
So,
agree June is good.
I'd
Okay,
rather do
wonderful.
June than July.
Yeah, I feel like it's better to do it then before the rest of the summer and the holidays and people traveling.
Because our commission meeting in July is the week after 4th of July, which I could imagine people are traveling and vacation timing, etc.
Yes. Also, this is a great time to remind committee chairs to look at your dates for July, and maybe you want to bump back a week or something. But please do not schedule over someone else's committee meeting, or smoke will pour out of the wires of our Zoom account. And September, right, there was logic to this. Sorry, September, the meeting is in the week of Labor Day, which so I feel like we just have a string of virtual meetings. So we will try to wrangle June in person. And Aaron, if you ever want to just join virtually, even though the rest of us are meeting in person, you are able to. We will
You
ship
mean
one here.
and forfeit the free food?
Forfeit the singular tasty cake, yes.
Ah, damn. Okay, I'll think about it.
Okay, Secretary, let's put our heads together on that. And Francois, if you want to do the Tasty Cakes resolution, please, we can pass it next week. I don't think it even needs committee consideration. Number 2, and Raisa, I will call on you a little bit here, if you're able. We had a little conversation in email a couple weeks ago about some people feeling that the turnaround time was too tight after the commission meetings to provide the agenda previews for upcoming committee meetings. So I wanted to really quickly touch base with everybody to see if we could massage it. I think there's a lot of wiggle room. So if you are unfamiliar, or if you are a new committee chair, hello, Mr. Brandt. The deal is that the weekend after the commission meets, so not this coming weekend, but the one after, is when your agenda previews are due for your upcoming committee meetings. And we stick that in the email newsletter and put it on the website, just so that people have an idea of what the committees are going to be discussing in the coming month. It's kind of unavoidable, I think, because the committees start meeting the week after the commission meeting, and obviously we want to give some kind of notice to the public. We have been praised many times now this year for providing that information up front, which we have never provided before as a commission. So I do want to continue doing it. It just means like Friday, Saturday, Sunday after the commission meets, please spare like literally 5 minutes to email Raisa to say, this month we're going to be talking about like 3 bullet points. No more detail than that required. Does it seem? I don't think it seems bad, but I also don't run a committee, so tell me everything.
The one
Mr.
other thing I'll
Oh.
add, Miguel, before people chime in, is the other thing we do with that information is pull it for the newsletter. And so if you decide to move that date, fine. I would still either need people to send me stuff for the newsletter, so I'm not making it up, or we need to move the newsletter date release kind of window as well.
Right, that's true. I should point out that also all the newsletter content is kind of due that weekend, basically, because the newsletter goes out the following week, which can be, it's the agenda previews, but also anything fun in the community, any announcements you want to put in there, which has been working really well. I have really liked how much content we've been generating. So Commissioner Holden, tell me everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine with me. The current schedule, I kind of like to try to get it out a week in advance of the committee, just so people kind of know what's coming up. And if I'm going to have like a guest speaker, that it should already be scheduled before we send it out on Friday anyway. So I'm fine with that.
I don't think that much generally arises at the commission meeting on Thursday that would cause you to really upset your committee agenda.
Yeah, we have, for me anyway, since we're like the second Wednesday, by the time the committee meeting, but by the time the full ANC meeting is happening, I kind of already have my agenda. And anything that happens, unless it's like something pops up and we would add it, a lot of stuff might not, depending on schedules and when timelines and things, it might get bumped to the like following month, right? Like if anything happened at the full ANC, that might not make it in time for the one that's just the next week. So the agenda is kind of already set for me by the time the meeting happens.
Right, I would hope.
If I could
yeah,
jump in here, in the ABCR world, we do have like a lot of these deadlines. I think I was the one who kind of like raised this for the newsletter. I can just like try and make a better note to try and do that. We've been pushed to like the last like week before, like yesterday before the cow, and then we have the commission meeting. So if there are items to vote on, sometimes it's hard to like turn them around and then also be like, oh wait, think about next month already. I know we have a lot of support, and I think Karen does a great job, is doing a great job with like the prepping the agenda already, basically putting it together. So maybe we could just push through. When does the newsletter go out again?
We've been shooting for the first half of the following week, so like by that Wednesday.
Okay.
So the wiggle room there is if y'all get me stuff by like Monday, I'm still like posting and putting together the newsletter kind of that first half of the week. Wednesday is kind of the real deadline in my mind anyway. I don't know. Miguel, if you have other thoughts.
The constraint is that public safety meets Tuesday, and sometimes if the commission meeting is late, it's that Tuesday night. So we want to. I think we had that problem last month, right, where public safety was meeting that Tuesday, and we like rushed out the newsletter that morning at least so it would have the notice of the.
Because they were highlighted. Yep.
Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Stephen and I have the same challenge, which is our meetings tend to be just before the commission meeting. So I think what I will try to do is to give kind of broad bullet points for my agenda. But I'm going to kind of reserve the right, if it's okay, to finalize my agenda about the week before, because there are things like our guest speakers and things that we're sometimes trying to still coordinate. So I'm with Stephen, I think, in the sense that I might try to do more of a report out on what happened in the newsletter, as opposed to what's upcoming in the newsletter. But I definitely want to make sure that we're contributing items to report on, because I think that's just as valid.
Yes, you always have that right, of course, to set the agenda, and it doesn't have to be comprehensive. It's not like you can't add something later, right? But just top couple bullet points for the newsletter, just as the preview to the community. Okay.
Commissioner Kenzik, welcome, and he needs to get filled in on the tasty cake plan.
No, it's supposed to be a surprise.
Oh.
You'll have to go back and watch the recording. Nice to see you, Al.
You as well.
Next item, super quick. Just a reminder, this came up yesterday in a conversation, so I wanted to remind folks that if you have people who joined your committee possibly for the first meeting but have dropped off and are no longer interested in being members, the rule is that you're allowed to remove them from the roster after 3 consecutive absences. If there's an issue with quorum and somebody's missed like 2 meetings and you really are quite sure they're not going to come back, you can't kick them off yourself, but the commission can do it. So if you want to have a quick think and see if there's anyone we should remove at our meeting next week, we can do that. I don't think really being so aggressive is necessary, but there was a situation, committee didn't have quorum this week, so want to be mindful of it. We're definitely still recruiting for committee members. I think, once again, Commissioner Holden can step out of the room because he's perfect, but everybody else I think could use still a few more folks. Raisa, I had put a little slot in your updates later on about a committee recruitment flyer. She's starting to work on one, so we'd love to get input from everybody about how to brag about your committees. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I mean, the responsibility for recruiting committee members is the executive committees by our rules, and which is we're kind of delegating that to Raisa. But you as chairs are, of course, I think the most effective ambassadors for your committees. So to the extent we can provide you with printed materials or whatever you need to go to community events and look for members who are zoning nerds or liquor license nerds or whatever, please do. Please try to make a little bit of time for that in the next month or so. It would be good to just raise our numbers a little bit more, because there's always going to be attrition over the course of the term. So that said, oh no, sorry, one more thing. Oh, speaking of getting out into the community and recruiting people for ANC related events and stuff, there is an important event coming up perhaps this Saturday, weather willing, the Ledroit Park Home and Garden Tour. Matt Fay, I think, can speak at great length about it. It is 1 to 5 p.m. on Saturday. The rain date is May 3rd. Which I'm secretly hoping for because I'm out of town this weekend and I really want to go. So I'm going to do several incantations later this evening. But if you are in town this weekend on Saturday, you're free in the afternoon, would love to have you go to the garden tour. We're going to have printed materials, which Raisa has designed and finally sent to the printer. They're very lovely. So there will be handouts, but we don't have any commission representatives yet signed up to go. The Detroit Park Community Association graciously has allowed us to at least leave our materials at the sign-in table so everyone will see them. But if we could have somebody there, an actual warm body, shaking hands and kissing babies, that would be really nice. So please consider, again, 1 to 5 p.m. This Saturday afternoon. If you want to volunteer right now, that'll be amazing. Oh, Ellen volunteered. Great. Sign him up. Did you have a question?
No. No.
Okay.
Is it possible
So
to do a half a shift?
100%.
Yeah, just come by. We've been tracking the weather. It's a little tricky just because it is slated for light rain, but it also looks like it's going to wrap up. The rain is going to wrap up by 1 o'clock. So the committee is at this point, unless there is a deluge, the committee is pushing ahead with the event this weekend. There is going to be a welcome table with the ANC materials as well as the LPCA materials set up in the Anna Cooper Circle, which is the intersection of 3rd Street and T Streets. So come on by. There's lots and lots of volunteers, and just let them know who you are, and then you can camp out with them at the table for a little while and just meet and greet and say hello. You'll also, Stephen, if you come over, I'll set aside your business cards, which are coming in tomorrow, and so you can pass those out as well. And then everyone else will be getting theirs next Thursday at the commission meeting. Thanks to Risa for organizing and ordering those and getting them shipped.
Here. Francois.
I was just gonna say that the Vermont Avenue Garden party is happening this weekend. So that's from 9 to noon. U Street, we're meeting at the U Street Metro, the U Street Civil War Memorial. So yeah, that should be great. Plant more flowers. Vermont Avenue is beautiful. Let's keep it that way and make it even better. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it. Actually, I just saw like a few minutes ago, we got the confirmation that it's on for this weekend. So I assume they are CCing all the commissioners. So hopefully everybody will have seen that. Although I feel like you have to do a costume change between those two events. The Detroit Park requires seersucker suits, I think.
Yeah. Come as you are.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. That's it for announcements. Anyone have anything else to holler? Cool. Let's talk about the agenda for next week. Once again, it's in person. Please join. We do have a guest speaker nailed down. Secretary Fay, remind me, we have OP.
Yep, we have 2 folks from Office of Planning who are leading the Comp Plan 2050 rewrite process. They're going to come and do a presentation, speak to their plan, their approach, intention for engaging the community. I would encourage all of you to be thinking about questions that you've got, probably less about the comp plan, although ask those questions too, and more about what role they anticipate the community and the ANC having in providing feedback. That's the thing I'm very curious about. But yeah, we'll have the 2 folks that are leading the charge from OP coming in and speaking to us.
Great. And I think we also have DPR later in the district agency section, right? For a
Yep.
short hello.
Yep, a 5-minute presentation from Chris Dyer with some time for questions.
Okay. Yeah, I think I figured out the problem.
We typically receive a visit from the council member's office in our May meeting. I think maybe only Commissioner Kenzak would remember that that's the tradition. And she usually comes to speak about budgetary priorities. Since the budget is a whole situation this year, we corresponded with them a bit and decided to move that back to our June meeting. So we can expect the council member, I hope herself, to join in June, talk about budget. I did ask David Menny to come. I mean, he always comes to our meetings, but I asked him to speak specifically about budgetary priorities in his section next week, just so we get a sense of what they're keeping an eye on as they go into mayor's budget drop, if it ever does come. So that is that. The suggestion to have a consent agenda at our commission meetings, I wanted to talk about quickly. This came up in email. Commissioner Holden suggested it. We used to have a consent agenda at the beginning of our agenda. It usually contained nothing because I don't think anybody understood really what that was or what it was supposed to do. So we got rid of it this year, but it's back. I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure nobody had an objection to it. Basically, if you're an avid council watcher, you may notice that they always have a consent agenda, and it's usually like a collection of non-controversial items that they pass all in with one vote usually at the beginning of a meeting. And for the council, DC Council, it's usually like a bunch of street and alley renamings and that kind of stuff that nobody's gonna debate about. For us, Matthew's suggestion was that we give notice there of actions or like decisions not to act by committees. So the typical case would be ABCR deciding not to protest a license renewal, for example. We usually don't have a chance to ratify that. And it's a good point that it's nice for the commission to at least have the FYI that the committee took that decision. Last month, we started printing those on the agenda as an FYI. That had never been done before. But I think Matthew had a good point that we should just do the formal step of ratifying all of them. I think it makes a ton of sense. I love the suggestion. I don't know if anybody has anything to add, any questions, any comments.
Yeah, I think it also just helps with, so like when we got to the section from the committee, like using the ABCR example, like it was a little unclear to me when there was no action from the committee, or like we didn't want to protest something, whether we were going to discuss it or take a vote, etc. So I think having those actions up front in the consent agenda just makes it very clear like what that like action or no action was, and then like gives an opportunity, an obvious opportunity for someone to object to it if they wanted to object. The particular example of the Lincoln Theater, I wouldn't have objected to that, but it was just, it was like we weren't protesting that one, and we were protesting a different one, and I think this just makes things a little more clear, at least for me.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I think Matt Holden may have just answered my question, which was, can we object? And so it sounds like you can object to kind of an item, so that would then be extracted from the consent agenda, but the rest of the consent agenda would pass.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
And then the only other thing I would say is just, and I know I'm then preaching to the choir, is make sure you read the consent agenda. Because I think that's the risk, is that if we are going to pass a consent agenda and people haven't read it and all of a sudden they're on the hook for passing it, that'll become a problem down the road.
Yeah, very much that. And yes, procedurally, the thing is that I believe the only thing you can do with a consent agenda is pass it or move to remove things and put them on the full agenda. You can't get bogged down in that step debating things. Like the only permissible motions are approve the consent agenda or amend it to remove an item, and then it just falls to new business or whatever. Alan? All right, Stephen, go ahead.
I'm sorry about
Oh.
that. I apologize. Yeah, so we missed a deadline in ZPD that was supposed to be. We could have asked for a 45-day extension. So I think it would be good, Christian, if you give me a call tomorrow to see what we could do, so the ANC actually has a voice in the on what's coming up on the log for them to vote on. Just as an FYI.
Very good, Stephen.
Yeah, sorry, I think I stepped away for a second. So we are going to have a itemized list of items that have passed the committees as consent, and that's going to be added to the commission agenda. That's correct, right?
Right. The way we did it
Okay.
last month, we put the like little FYI version from ABCR, right, of licenses that you guys decided not to protest.
Yeah, okay.
So it's basically that.
Okay, all right, that's good. Yeah, I just want to make sure like I don't want to put the onus on the committee to broadcast because there are a lot there, but I think if the onus would still be on the commissioners to read the agenda, as Secretary Fay was saying. So I think this is a good compromise.
Okay.
I think the consent agenda in my head kind of gives the onus is on all the individual commissioners to review it, of course, but it gives us a little bit more of, it gives oversight over the committees, and then like gives our like it's like I don't want to say it's a box check, but it's kind of like a box check that like we know what the committees did and we're agreeing with it or not agreeing with it, right? And I think that we're the elected ones, so I think it gives us that accountability, I guess.
No, it's totally true. I'm almost surprised this hasn't arisen in my experience on the commission where like ABCR, for example, decides not to protest something and then somebody discovers it a couple months later and they're like mad, that they weren't advised. But I mean, there's no need for them to be advised, right? But this does create a sort of additional fail-safe. I think it's very smart.
Would we vote formally to approve it at the meeting? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Secretary Fay, please consider yourself charged with adding a new bullet to the agenda, which define the laws of physics. We will still do in the same amount of time we do the entire agenda anyway. Cool. Thank you, guys. Final item in my block is we will next week appoint a new chairperson for the Committee on Zoning Preservation and Development. We've been very fortunate that ZPD had a vice chair. Can't recommend strongly enough that committee chairs appoint vice chairs because continuity of operations is important. Christian, thank you for stepping up. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for making time for us in your life. Thank you to your partner for making time for us in y'all's lives. So I do intend to nominate Christian to continue on a permanent basis. He has accepted unless he's changed his mind in the past week. And so it should be pretty simple motion. And a motion to ratify that. Any questions? If you'd like to speak to Christian about his qualifications or priorities, I did copy him on the last few bits of correspondence, so find him there. Otherwise, we'll take care of it on Thursday.
Just a quick question. So Christian, I think I was stalking you on LinkedIn. You're a planner with Alexandria? Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I work in the long range planning.
Okay, great. Thanks for being involved.
Yeah. Happy to do it.
Do you actually? I suppose I should offer you an opportunity to introduce yourself. I assume everyone knows you, but that's probably not fair. I know you because you live next to me, and you're wonderful. And you've been involved with ZPD for at least a year, I would say. Is that right?
June. Only 6 months well, 8 months.
Okay.
I gotta say, I'm very surprised Holden didn't have more questions for him. That's interesting.
He's keeping his powder dry. He's going to be there Thursday with his tasty cake and.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I can share a little bit. I work as a planner. My specialty is community engagement, so my specialty is not zoning per se, but obviously we're communicating about zoning a lot. So, but I joined the committee in June last year. I live on Chapin Street, and I care a lot about direct democracy. And for what it's worth, my master's thesis focused on ANCs, not necessarily specifically on Washington, D.C.'s ANCs, but on fourth levels of government. So,
Wow.
I'm very excited to be officially part of a fourth level of government. So it's nice to be here.
Welcome aboard. I didn't even know that. Oh my God, more credentials. I have to.
Yeah.
Can't fit it all in one
That's my
page.
secret sort of is that I've studied all of you.
Oh, wow.
I'm just kidding.
Wow. Steven's reaction to that was brilliant. Francois, go ahead.
Great to meet you, Christian, and excited to have you on board as chair of the ZPD committee, potentially once we vote. I'm curious, just a rapid fire question. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most extreme, we need more, and 0 being we don't need to build anything more. How much more housing do you think DC needs?
I mean, that is a really hot button question for sure. I would probably say my general feeling lands at around a 4. I don't
Mhm.
believe in building housing. I believe in building housing that's really good quality, and I think a lot of us can understand that the housing that is often built are, for lack of a better word, pieces of crap. But I do love, I really believe in density. I really believe in affordability, and you can achieve that by building. Uh, and building housing is, often one of the only ways that cities can actually get affordable housing these days. So, yeah, I would say I'm a 4.
Appreciate the answer. I think that makes sense.
All right, moving on. Thank you, Christian. Much appreciated. Any business from the executive committee for the agenda next week? I'm not aware of any. Hearing none. Committee stuff. Per usual, step number 1, check on minutes. Karen, you wanna read the roll of shame? No, please don't. But if you haven't sent your committee minutes yet, please do send them by yesterday. Figure out how that works, so that we can have our agenda packet prepared in a timely fashion. Yes, Matthew.
One small trick for getting your minutes in on time is to cancel your monthly meeting, and then there's no minute.
Get out of this. Get out of. How do you remove a participant from this thing? Karen, boot him. Ugh, God, so annoying. Anyway, thank you to those of you who have submitted minutes. Please, 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 seriously, it's we do not like, we have 24 hours from right now to produce the agenda packet. So to the extent you can get us your minutes in fewer than 23 hours, if you haven't yet, please do. Yes, Alan.
Yeah, this is the part of the ZPD that I think was very frustrating. For Christian, maybe it's good for him to do it in one night, but today's Wednesday. The meeting was Monday. And again, what I think we should be prepared, especially with ZPD, you can't confirm who's coming to a meeting, even after a couple conversations. You can't confirm what cases are going to come across from you, whether it be a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now. So I do think this whole agenda thing and pressing it and pressing it and pressing it, I could say pressing another 10 times, is a little cuckoo a little bit. I mean, ZPD, maybe even economic development, those should be even APCA should be in their own realm in terms of what's going to happen. And then I also think you put something in writing to people, they automatically think that it's going to happen, and when it doesn't, they get upset about it. So I think that's we should possibly think about that. Maybe some of these strenuous deadlines that they're putting on chairs to have certain information in when their actual what they're chairing takes time. It could be 3 weeks. I mean, you like I said, Kristen just had a meeting on Monday. It's Wednesday. That's a really, really quick turnaround, and I don't know how he's going to have the minutes and then also plan on new guest speakers plus some of the cases that are coming in. It's very frustrating, and I think that the push and the good people, good roles and bad roles, and who's I mean, a lot of the people have 2 or 3 weeks to do this as opposed to 1 or 2 days. That's just something we should honestly think about as a committee in general or a commission in general. I think it comes off a little strong and a little pushy, and frankly, I didn't care for it, which understood.
I'll
Definitely
add
true that the schedule is tight this month because ZPD just met on Monday and ABCR met last night. That's not the case in a normal month. I don't see it happening again in the months ahead. It's just a fluke of schedule. So yeah, this one's a bit unfortunate this time around. We can always add minutes to the agenda packet. If you can't get it in, absolutely not by tomorrow. We'll just stick it in and make a new PDF a couple days later. It's just more work for Matt and Raisa and me and whatever. So we really hope not to do that. But again, this is just for minutes from your meetings that have already happened this month that we want to have done
and
today.
the minutes don't need to be as long as some committees are making them. Minutes, like in a true fashion or like a Robert's Rule fashion, really should just record when the meeting started, who was in attendance, quorum, and the votes and how you voted, with maybe a little bit of explanation on the topics. They don't need to be transcriptions. So I think the minutes can be shorter.
Okay, can I ask Commissioner Holden, who is he pointing that to, that the minutes? Because I looked at a lot of minutes. There's only one committee I've seen with very lengthy minutes. So are you saying it as a whole, or are you saying it directly to a committee?
I'm saying it as a whole. I think our minutes in general are very long. My minutes are very short. I think everyone else's minutes are much longer.
I try to just write in red on things we've really talked about. I don't know if that's good or not, but
Yeah,
I
sure.
think it's up to the chairs, like they can make them as long as they want. But if it's hard to do minutes, it's hard to make an agenda, it's hard to do all these things. I think the minutes can be shorter, and that's not a attack on anyone. It's just a piece of advice.
I mean, mine have been longer than I would like them to be because we were doing essentially public hearings on the NMA, and I wanted to make sure that all that stuff got captured in case anybody came back and said, what did the community say? But I'm very much looking forward to abbreviated minutes, as topics are more report out and less like seeking feedback and trying to document it. So I'm with you, Commissioner Holden.
Yeah, there actually is guidance from OANC if you really want to dig into this, but the long and short of it is the minutes must contain like times of adjournment and calling to order and every motion that was made and the vote count. And that's kind of it for like legal sufficiency. But the more you put in, that's great too. Of course, it's nice for people to be able to Google around and find out what we thought about a certain case.
Wait, so we're supposed to put in the time, like the exact time that the motion was made?
No. Just like the call to order time and the adjournment
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, got
And
it.
then,
Got it.
yeah, record of any motions that were made and what the
Okay,
result was.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we do want to get back to the timeline question from the beginning of the meeting. I know it can be tight sometimes after the commission meeting, like we talked about in that one weekend turnaround before the newsletter goes out. But again, it can be a skeleton if you only know of one thing coming up for your committee. Throw it on there. If two things arise later, we can add them into the website anytime. It is very easy to edit, so we're happy to take new information as it comes in. Christian, you want to final comment?
Yeah, I'll just add mine are probably likely to stay pretty detailed because I type while I talk. And it's like how I've taken notes for probably 10 years at this point. So they're probably going to stay very detailed, and the only reason I would keep them less detailed is if it's easier for participants to read them without having to go through all of the detail. But just also for reference, we had DOB at ZPD on Monday, and so I took relatively detailed notes because I know that matters for people and they're very interested in it. And we were referencing the building collapse. I do think that like this past CPD meeting, we had 2 people confirm attendance at the very last minute. So obviously they didn't make it onto the published agenda, like the Department of Buildings staff, for instance, didn't make it onto the published agenda. But I'm assuming that's just like that's just gonna happen that way. Because obviously if you confirm at 2 p.m. the day of your meeting that you're coming, it's a little bit hard to get that published into an agenda that's already out there. But I guess I don't necessarily foresee a problem in generating these, but I understand that like we might get cases come in at kind of any time, really. And so there's only so much you can do about getting those onto the agenda if they come in like the day before the meeting is scheduled.
Which is 100% fine.
Yeah.
So give as much advance notice as we can of what we know so the community knows to show up to a meeting if they care about a particular topic. Let's move on. We are dwindling in our time and we have so much to do. Submissions for committee reports section. Matt, I don't know if you have anybody's yet. The agenda for the commission meeting works best if we put the bullets of the
Yeah, can I just do a quick round the room?
Yep.
So if we think about transportation, I know you didn't meet this month. Do you guys have any items that are going to be new business?
No, not at this meeting.
Awesome. ZPD, is there anything that you need to present as new business?
No, we didn't have any new business to discuss really, or motion on at least. So
Okay, great. Abker, Stephen, I know you had 2 that
Yeah.
had come up.
Yeah, I want to put 2 placeholders in.
Yep.
I want to follow up with the single member districts for each of those. But just a placeholder, maybe we won't end up having an action item for that.
Okay, this is Alero and Howard, but we'll just say institution 1 and 2. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
and do you want me to follow up with you with the ABRA numbers?
No, because Karen's got all that stuff in your agenda. So if you just let me know, I just copy and paste it off of your details.
Okay, awesome.
Public safety, question number one, Francois, you look like you're in an exotic place, but is it just a shirt?
I am in Meridian Hill, which I would sometimes like to think is an exotic place.
Awesome. Public safety, anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the resolution that I wanted to discuss during this meeting, calling for a hearing on the U.S. attorney. So that's the one new business item I
Okay,
think I would
all
be
right.
presenting.
Economic development has the resolution on the place management entity. We don't have community engagement. Miguel, you and I can ping Jamie on that. What else, who else am I missing? Sorry, guys.
Did we cover everybody? Yeah.
Great.
Quick, let's talk about those resolutions one by one in a second. But so now we've decided to use this consent agenda, and normally that would mean that we would record for ABCR the passive action of not protesting things. However, ABCR didn't have quorum this week, so technically they didn't act or passively act on anything. So I think we should let's put them on the consent agenda anyway. But Stephen, if you can be ready to talk through the applicants really, really briefly, the ones that you see no reason to object to anything. And I mean, I think you guys already have like the case histories on hand, right? In case somebody has a question, because basically the commission is going to be acting as ABCR for a few minutes next week. I think we should just take an extra beat and do that thoroughly.
Okay.
Cool. The two resolutions, Matt, do you want to talk about yours briefly first?
Yeah, quickly. I think folks are aware that we've held two public hearings on the Neighborhood Management Authority, which is a bill proposed by Councilmember Nadeau. Over the course of those discussions, the community feedback was very, very positive around the creation of a place management entity, potentially a bid, potentially an NMA, but was generally leaning in the direction of a bid, a business improvement district. At our second hearing, Councilmember Pinto shared with us her intention of creating a bid that would run north-south along 7th Street from Mount Vernon Square, the Apple Store, north to Howard University. After a fair amount of discussion, we agreed that we wanted to make sure that we were declarative on the part of our commission that our very strong preference is for a east-west bid that would encompass the greater U Street. We've set rough boundaries that would be essentially no further east than 5th Street and no further west than like 18th Street, with kind of some north-south boundaries. It's not intended to force a bid to operate in that full thing. It's just saying we really think it needs to follow U Street. There's additional language in there about what we hope the bid will do, both in terms of the services that it provides, but also in terms of community engagement, both during its formation and during its operation. And so I'm happy to ask any answer any questions now, but also I know there will be questions when we get to the meeting on Thursday. Great.
I'm going to say, dovetailing with that, I'm just going to reorder things on the agenda since it's in the same subject area, if nobody minds too much. I'm also working on a resolution, and I've invited Alan and Jamie and Stephen. I sent an email, was it this morning? So quite recently. So if you haven't had time to review it, no problem. The NMA legislation that Councilmember Nadeau introduced in council envisions an NMA for U Street, of course, and an NMA for Columbia Heights. In U Street, we're having an entire conversation about is an NMA the right structure or would a bid be better? And that conversation needs to continue happening, and we're super involved in that, and that's wonderful. In Columbia Heights, there is no conversation about a bid potentially forming for a lot of complicated reasons. And so the NMA is kind of their only shot. I think it's very smart structure for Columbia Heights. And the boundaries of that NMA go all the way down 14th until Florida Ave. So our SMDs are implicated. I think it's important to be clear that we support at least I support that structure for Columbia Heights. Not necessarily 100% of the way it's written, but I certainly support the progress of that bill insofar as Columbia Heights is concerned in council. I think it should have a hearing. We had been hearing that the hearing would not occur until the fall, which I think is a bit too far away. So we're just trying to add a bit of pressure on the council to actually give that thing a formal look. So, sort of in my SMD capacity, since I'm implicated, the businesses in my SMD are implicated, I want to support the progress of the bill in that sense. So just an FYI, if anybody wants to learn more about that, Alan, Jamie, Stephen, if you want to take a look at the draft, I think it's pretty much ready to hit the floor next Thursday. We'd be the first commission taking a position on that, but 1A is expected to take it up in May as well, and 4C, and I think 1D is also covered a bit in the boundaries. So we're all talking and coordinating about how we can act to support the NMA for Columbia Heights. End of FYI.
Can I just add one piece, and that is that
Yeah.
we were agnostic in the Economic Development Committee regarding the support for a bid versus an NMA. There's big differences between the two, obviously. I mean, their goals are reasonably similar, but there are lots of big differences. One of the things that we're concerned about, the reason that we were agnostic, is that the council member has stated publicly that she will support the formation of a bid if sufficient signatures are achieved. The bid provides additional revenues, income to support the activities of the bid through an additional property tax. So that's the signatures, is getting property owners to sign on to it. Presumably it can get formed faster than the NMA could, because it does not have to go through the whole series of hearings that the NMA would. And finally, the next is that there is a concern that given the tight budgets of DC, the NMA relies on government funding only to operate. We're worried that we may not be able to actually have available dollars to support that. And then finally, with Councilmember Pinto's offer to support a bid in a different direction that we think is less advantageous to the overall U Street corridor, we felt like it was important to lend support to something being formed on U Street to encourage the people who are working on the bid to take action with our support. So I'm sure that's one of the questions is, where do we lie versus an NMA versus a bid? We have chosen not to choose one over the other because we want to give both of them room. But the council member herself has said, I am open to a bid should the signatures be gotten to support it.
That's fine.
Yeah, I was just wondering, would the property tax apply to all property owners, including residents, or just businesses?
Good question. The way that a bid typically forms is that it only includes the business addresses, so the lots and squares associated with commercial real estate. And so something like the Langston, which is a residential apartment building, would likely get picked up in the bid tax. The way the bid tax works, at least in DuPont Circle, is that it's a $10 per unit fee. That $10 is typically passed on to the renter in the form of $120 a year or $10 a month. But the property, and sometimes the property owners will eat that as a part of their rent. The argument on the property owners, especially in the case of a hotel or a multifamily, is that they think they will be able to make improvements to the area sufficient that they'll be able to increase demand and to fill their units, fill up their rooms. So it's a cost that they're willing to bear. But then any of the commercial properties would also be included. Single family homes, highly unlikely, but this group would be seeing the map of the included properties as it moves forward and gets developed.
Steven?
I know I'm probably late to this and I probably shouldn't even say anything, but is there any way where does District Bridges fit into this with the NMA? And is there a way we could just channel the money from the NMA to District Bridges? They do a lot of good work already.
Yeah, so good question. And there's probably three comments on District Bridges. The first is that A lot of the businesses on U Street are very frustrated with the lack of services provided by District Bridges. They have, I think, staffing in certain areas like North Georgia Avenue, but U Street itself has been kind of without a kind of a local leader for some time, so there is some frustration. The second is that the District Bridges funding comes both from the Department of Small Businesses and also from some council grants from Councilmember Nadeau. And so those are also funded by district funds. What typically happens is that when a bid is formed, the Main Street programs themselves tend to go away. But oftentimes the bids will be contracting with the same entities that were providing the services before, so that there's a continuity of funding and staffing and success rate. So it's the kind of thing where when a bid is formed, they're going to go out and figure out who they would want to contract with to provide services like cleaning and in kind of on the ground security things. And so if you've got somebody who's already doing a great job at that, oftentimes they'll just move the contract from one payer to the other. I'm sorry, the other thing to say is that the folks who are putting together the folks who are putting together the bid spend some time actually talking about what a bid can do that a Main Streets program can't. And one of the things that a bid can do is it can actually go out and get grant money. And so it is able to actually pick up dollars that a Main Street program simply can't, and then be able to direct those dollars to programs in the bid area.
Okay. I'm going to shepherd us along. Please,
Yes.
if you have more questions, send them by email, bring them next week. So we're all clear on the specs. Francois, do you want to talk really briefly about the resolution that you just emailed out a little bit ago?
Yes, very briefly, the Public Safety Committee passed or recommended a resolution calling for Congress to hold hearings on the confirmation of Ed Martin, our U.S. attorney. As you may know, Ed Martin has been serving as the interim U.S. attorney since Trump appointed him very early on in his term. And I believe he can only serve for 120 days. So I think that the last day that he can serve as interim U.S. attorney would be May 20th. But in any case, I think this resolution is very fair and lays out the concerns that we have about Ed Martin regarding ethics violations, as well as firing or demoting senior attorneys that were working on important cases, as well as the things that he's doing that, I think we should be supportive of in some ways. But I think that because of these outstanding concerns, there really does need to be a congressional hearing on him if they are going to push him through before the May 20th deadline. And so I think this is a very important way for our commission to say that, look, we deserve to have full and transparent hearings where senators can ask the tough questions about what he's done, and where, DC residents can see and maybe even get some sort of voice through our shadow representatives and such to actually ask him questions and try to understand what he intends if he were to be confirmed for the next 4 years, as well as why he's made certain politically charged investigations into, for example, Georgetown University for their diversity programming, or also trying to start investigations into congressional leadership of the opposing political party. So in any case, I think that this is a very even-handed way to say that, we deserve to have more information, and that there should be a congressional hearing to hear him out and to give him a fair chance and to let senators ask their questions. So please let me know if you have any questions. Happy to talk about it more. One thing I do want to say is that, like I said, the deadline is May 20th. So we get one bite at the apple to do this and to send it out to all of the appropriate parties like the council, as well as the senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee and such, who are currently saying that they are not going to hold a hearing on him. But the deadline is coming up, so it's kind of unclear whether they can even confirm him.
Alan?
I see you have a question.
Yeah, so had anything have been precedent like this before where ANC commission asked these type of questions?
So I'm not aware. I'm aware of other commissions that have called for the U.S. attorney to go before Congress to testify about, for example, I believe it was 1A passed a resolution calling for Matthew Graves, the previous U.S. attorney, to answer questions from Congress about why the about his prosecutions and why there was a very low number of prosecutions for the cases the police were bringing him. Believe that was the issue, something related to that. But yes, other commissions have passed resolutions related to the U.S. attorney. U.S. attorney is basically our district attorney, because they prosecute the most serious crimes in the district. The OAG only, Office of the Attorney General, only prosecutes misdemeanors as well as felonies that are committed by youth. It's kind of complicated, but that's roughly what they do. So, yes, I think there is precedent for commissions weighing in on things like this. And I also think, just given the extreme importance of who becomes the U.S. attorney in DC, that it's worthwhile to try to weigh in on, especially, given that we can, we have limited power, but we can send a signal,
Yeah. Two comments on that question, which is good. And I've been working with Francois for a little bit on this. One, I did check with OANC, just to make sure there was no guidance about this, which is really isn't. But the ANC law does give us power to represent residents' views before not only district but also federal agencies. So we're clear on that one. And Francois did write the resolution, which again is in all of your inboxes. He did direct it at the mayor and council, urging them to call for a hearing. And I do, we could talk about it next Thursday. I think we should specifically also name the shadow delegation, since those are all district agencies and employees. And so even though it's totally fine for us to aim a resolution at a federal agency, I think it is nice when possible for us to work through our, the representatives, the mayor and the shadow delegation.
Yeah, that's a great. I totally forgot to add them in, but I've been talking and thinking about it, so we should definitely add those folks into the resolution. And definitely reach out if you have any questions. Happy to talk about it more. But yeah, this is our one chance to weigh in before May 20th. So
very good.
And one follow-up question: what ended up happening with the 1A resolution? What was passed?
They passed it. They sent a letter, I believe, to, I want to say, Schiff or somebody, and they ended up actually meeting with some congressional staff to talk about it. So I don't know whether the hearings happened. I don't know too much about the details, but I do know that they did actually, talk with people in Congress. And so I do think that's an avenue we can go down where, we can have conversations with people in Congress to say, look, this is what we're hearing at the local level. This is what our constituents are saying. And this is what we're concerned about. And I think that is like an avenue where we can actually, make some change and change how the people in Capitol Hill that ultimately decide the fates of the people that live in DC, it can change how they think about these issues.
Okay, thank you very much, Francois. I commend you on it. I think the resolution is beautifully done. Excited to bring it to the floor. Quick final thing, SMD section is another item of mine. There is something called the Fair Housing Practices Amendment Act introduced in council, which would forbid what are they called? Property management companies from assessing fees on renters for utilities in common spaces. A lot of companies will assess a monthly fee for like the electricity of the building. In my building, it's a technology fee for the Wi-Fi in the lobby, which is like extraordinarily, like laughably disproportionate to the actual cost of the company. So this is a piece of legislation from Councilmember Allen. I think I'm gonna work on a resolution to call for it to have a hearing soon. This costs district residents lots and lots of money every year. I'm waiting to hear what the estimates of what those figures might be. I'm personally aggrieved about this in my situation. So if anyone's very interested in this, please let me know. Would love to collab on the resolution.
Quick, hypothetically, wouldn't those fees then just get translated into rent increases? Maybe it's better for them to be rent increases than random fees sort of arbitrarily tacked on. But I'm just curious. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sure, of course, it's part of the operating cost of the building, but like in my case, it's just so disproportionate to what it must cost them to have a router in the lobby.
Yeah. I hear you.
It's just a junk fee, and this is a way of codifying that's not allowed.
Totally.
Consultants reports. Sorry, I'm gonna start using a timer in the cow. We are running over, but we definitely need to hear from y'all. So, Karen, do you have anything for us?
No updates.
Ah,
Great.
wow, the best. Wow, you're the most efficient one of the whole night. Rice, I did put some things in there for you.
My agenda closed, but I think one of the top ones is that
Inputs for the newsletter.
yeah, as we talked about at the beginning, my goal is to pull stuff locally, and so my goal is to not Google a bunch of stuff. I really want to make sure that I'm highlighting things that you would like me to highlight in your SMD. So send me anything you'd like for the newsletter. Again, like the weekend after the meeting is ideal, up to that like Monday, Tuesday. Shoot me a text if you need a bit more time, and we can try to be flexible. Also, if you have your own newsletters and you want me to just pull from there, feel free to forward me things or send me the link to be added to it. Happy to do that as well. And then the other thing about that you can be thinking about is we are trying to be helpful as you're thinking through how to bring more committee members on. And so seeing that we are meeting in person for this next meeting, we were like, okay, what can we produce or do or post up so that people who show up know that committees exist and that you guys would like more people if you'd like more people. So we thought about doing like a flyer. I'm also open to other ideas. What that would entail, or what I would need from you guys, is essentially like a little blurb, 3 sentences of either something you want to highlight, how you want to frame it, just a couple words that I can use to create a bit of a flyer if you'd like one. Miguel, I'll like toss it to you at the end to add anything I might be missing there. Once you send me that stuff, if you can do it, I don't know, at least 4 days before the meeting, we can work together. Miguel and I can work together to get it printed. But again, if you have other ideas on how I can be helpful in your recruitment of your committee members, let me know. We tested out creating like a spotlight of a committee in the last newsletter. Happy to do that again for others. Francois, not sure if that helped, but happy to either do it that same one again or a different committee. Just keep me posted how I can be helpful as you're thinking about how to add new people. What else is on your list, Miguel?
One more thing, but let me add a comment there real quick. The committee recruitment flyer, we don't want to like use the same canned text from the website about what does your committee do, like considers applications for. Way too boring. So we'd like to do something more fun. So I don't know if you can pull out something that you're very excited about or an upcoming project like maybe it's gun safety for Francois committee, or something that like is like a meaty project that would someone's expertise maybe would be you could draw on so like policy areas like that, or whatever that I think would be better catchphrases than the kind of dry descriptions we use on the website. So please think about that and get them to Risa ASAP. The only other thing on there was celebrating the ordering of the printed materials.
We
Woohoo.
printed stuff. Yay! Your business cards have been ordered. If you told me you wanted them to be ordered, thank you guys for responding to my emails. They're all going to Matt, who, if you see him at the event this weekend, might have them for you. Otherwise, we'll have them for you at the in-person meeting. If you're for some reason not at that, we can figure out how to get them to you. The other thing we printed were what we're calling leave behinds. They're a little bit larger than a business card, a little bit smaller than a flyer. It has the map on it. It has what you guys do. It has who you are as a bit of something just a little bit more than a business card that explains what an ANC is. The goal is for those to be left behind at businesses, for us to take them to events. Once you see them, if we think we need more, we can order more. But if you also have ideas on other things that would be helpful as you're going to events, keep us posted. Happy to work with you to develop new things. The other thing I'm working on are little pins that you put on your shirt, I guess. So that's the next thing for us to be ordered, and that we'll be in touch about who wants them or what those look like and all that kind of stuff. What did I miss?
Name tags. We got jealous because 1A has name tags.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we have. Anyone, any final remarks? Please remember Saturday, the Dried Park garden tour. If you can make it, if you can be an ambassador for the commission, would love it. You can spend time with Matt Fay. Nothing better than that. Cool. Seeing nothing. See you for Tasty Cakes Thursday in person, HFA. 6-ish. Please be there. Thank you,
Miguel,
guys.
really
Journeying
quick,
at
You.
7
really
a.m.
quick.
Everyone.
What?
Is there any chance we can use our $100 to buy pizza instead of tasty cakes?
100%.
Okay.
How much pizza can we get for $100?
Probably some, not a lot, but some.
Do you want to take this on?
Oh, yeah. No good deed goes unpunished.
Never raise your hand. Never raise your hand. We
Sure.
can figure it out. We can figure it out.
Sure, I
Especially if we
can
get-
take it on. Yeah. For this meeting. I don't want to hold people. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it later.
Yeah, okay. Text me. I mean, if the
Yeah.
pickup is easy, if we just go to like Angelina or something.
Or like Andy's is right by the housing finance agency. It's at the housing finance agency, right? Or is it something?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we could just get it at Andy's.
Okay.
We could probably get a few large pizzas. We could get enough for everyone at that meeting to have at least a slice.
Agree. Karen, are you actually listening right now? Because we could coordinate. You know what? What we really need is just someone to run over there and pick
I'm
them
the
up
one who
because
entered.
I can't pick them up at 5 to get there. And Karen and I are usually running around it before the meeting, so we just need someone to sneak out at like 6:20 and pick them up and walk over with them warm, or 6:15, I guess.
I mean, I can always just pick it up and then walk back to the meeting. Like I'll just go straight to the pizza and then to the meeting at like I'll get to the meeting. I guess you want the pizza at 6:30, right?
I think it should be there at like 6:15 because we want people
Okay. Okay.
settled by 6:30.
Well, then I'll go get the pizza and then I'll walk to the meeting.
Okay, if you need an extra person, ask someone, but not one of us.
All good. I'll do it this meeting, and I'm happy to contribute. But maybe we can get some buy-in from some other commissioners as well.
Yeah. 100% we
In the
will.
future.
We'll rotate the
But I'm
duties.
happy to
Thank you.
lead the charge.
Thank you,
All right.
as you always do. Please touch base with Aaron about how you pay for it.
Aaron. Oh, okay. The OANC person.
No, the one on our commission.
Oh, I thought you said Aaron, not Karen. Okay.
No, Aaron Lemon Strauss.
Oh, Aaron.
Just to make sure that I
Oh,
assume the only way, Karen, do you know that? I don't actually know the answer to this. Is you could either get the card from him or just be reimbursed, and maybe check with him to see which one's quicker.
I'll talk to him.
Thank
We'll
you.
figure it out. Okay. Bye.
Hi, everyone.